Imagine a beautiful valley with a river slicing through it, providing fresh water for your crops, fish that you can eat all year, creates the environment for your village to grow, and soon you have a city, and soon you have a nation. That nation today is America, and that river represents our freedoms. And today, toxins are being thrown into that river, and America as a whole is being poisoned. America has always been resilient. Our freedoms, our way of life has galvanized millions of people, geniuses in their own right, like Albert Einstein, like Sergey Brin, to whose families or themselves came to the shores of America seeking a better life. A friend of mine described in her walkaway that she was inspired by Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who is a Somali-born feminist and anti-Islamist who came to America and sings the praises of freedom. And my friend went to a conference where new immigrants were speaking of their trials, tribulations, and triumphs in America. And she expected to find people that were so gladdened and grateful for the American freedoms that they had. Instead, they were parroting Ilhan Omar as to how much America owes them, as to how evil America was. And that turned her off so much from this side of the aisle that continually poisons everything, that as a lifelong Democrat, she walked away. And this was fairly recently. But it's not only with the new immigrants that they are poisoning. It is with our school children. When you have the toxins continually to flow into the river from the Democratic factory, that factory being the school system and university system that poisons people into believing that America is a land of great ill, of great evil, not comparing it to the rest of the world, comparing it to utopia only, no knowledge of how the rest of the world has behaved throughout history, the fact that slavery today is alive and well in North Africa, in the Middle East, in parts of South Asia. Literally in Libya today you can buy a slave, but the United States, which fought an internal civil war in an effort to abolish the practice of slavery, is the great evil. The fact that America was founded in 1619 and it was solely based on slavery. These lies, all called out often by very liberal people, are the floodgate, are the factory that is churning out this poison and dumping it into the minds of young people. And this is happening in the elementary schools even. Not just allowing kids to be kids and have their fun. No, they are inundating them with anti-American, unpatriotic messages that America is the land of evil and oppression, despite the fact that we, as a heterogeneous society, are have one of the most equal playing fields on earth. There is no other country as large and heterogeneous as America is. Could America be better? Sure, let's agree with that. Could we make improvements? Yes, but they want to tear down the whole system, and they poison every child that comes through the factory and then releases them into the river. And then they want to curtail our freedoms. That river is drying up. In order to build a house, do you know how many hurdles you have to jump? How much red tape you have to overcome? That's why there isn't a lot of new housing on the market, and that's part of the reason why housing prices are increasing so dramatically, despite the fact that people are unable to pay rents because they have intentionally shut down the economy for political gain. This is pure poison, and America cannot survive it. In addition to the fact that Joe Biden has promised the public school teachers unions that he would do all he could to abolish school choice. I see no greater threat to our system than horrible, horrible schools that tell children that the country that they live in is evil, because it takes so much work to unbrainwash them and to compare that, again, to the rest of the world and what they would be dealing with should they live somewhere else versus the freedoms and opportunities that they have in America. There's a reason why everybody around the world, and as somebody who's been to 60 countries, I can attest to this personally, dream of coming to the land of the free, the home of the brave. America is a fantastic place, no matter how many imperfections you could rightfully point out. And every day they are narrowing the channel of the river, our freedoms, and they are poisoning the minds of the young children, the fish that are coming into the river that will provide sustenance for our great country, that will lead our wonderful nation into the future. And instead, they believe that the only thing to do is to tear down the pillar of freedom around the world, the pillar of opportunity that supports all the other nations. And they are using as a pretext, the assault on the Capitol Hill, which I decry and I think was wrong. And then they completely ignore the 7 straight months of riots. If you want to impeach Donald Trump for what took place, okay, let's dive into that. Let's accept that reality. Then you have to impeach Kamala Harris too for her actions, visiting Jacob Blake, giving credence to the Kenosha riots. This was a thug, and she visited him. That's not going to incite more riots then and in the future. Raising funds for the Minnesota Freedom Fund, asking people to donate for people that were rioting, that got arrested, throwing them back out on the street, giving it tacit approval. Trump told everybody to stop. So if you're going to impeach Trump, then you got to impeach Kamala too. And right now, frankly, it is threat level midnight for the United States. We aren't teetering. We have fallen off the cliff. And the Democrats have pushed us over by continually talking about how evil the United States is, demonizing half the nation, telling Trump supporters that they are the problem, that they must be reprogrammed, telling anybody within the Trump administration who they believe aided and abetted him, putting them on a list so that they cannot get a job in the future. This is pure evil. Taking down Parler, a free speech platform, accusing them of not moderating content that they state and they believe helped plan the coup, despite the fact that there's massive amounts of evidence that a lot of this was done on Twitter and Facebook. But of course they leave those companies alone because they're not Parler is not part of the tech oligopoly and doesn't have the right political views. China has to be laughing because their efforts at subverting the United States have come to fruition. So we need to find a way to unite across the aisle and see the good that America has done and help lift our great nation back up onto the cliff from which we are right now descending at an ever-increasing rate. I don't want to demonize everybody on the left, but we have to acknowledge what is taking place. The fact that Joe Biden has said that he's going to get rid of school choice, that hurts the young black youth that I care about. I want an equal playing field, but you are robbing them of a potentially great education by people that want to give it to them and putting competitive pressure on public schools in order to do better. Meanwhile, you shut down all the schooling in America, causing irreparable harm to children that aren't socializing, that aren't learning for more than a year. And for what? Who knows whether the lockdowns have actually worked? If they worked the first time, why are we trying them again? If they didn't work the first time, why are we trying them again? It doesn't make any sense to me other than the fact that they were doing so for political gain in an effort to get Donald Trump out of office. And I can't tolerate. We have to go and destroy the factory that is polluting our great river. And that is the DNC that is sponsoring the wokeism, the great poison that is coming downstream and affecting each and every single one of us. The fact that people can riot and be let go by the Multnomah DA, by the DA in St. Louis, who then, to add further flames to the fire, wants to come down with the greatest extent of the law on the McCloskeys, who dared to protect themselves from the mob that had invaded their private residence. I honestly believe that there is a faction in the Democratic Party that is so egoic, that thinks that the other side is so evil that they just want to tear our country apart in an effort to get back at the ills of Donald Trump that they perceive. Not the fact that he helped achieve peace with Israel and other nations in that region that will benefit the world in the long term. Not that he lowered taxes, not the fact that the economy was booming until COVID. No, because they don't like the way he speaks. They want to tear our nation apart. And the problem is that this doesn't end well for anybody except for a few elite at the top who are already dictating what we can and cannot say on public platforms, on the new public square, which is social media. something that our founding fathers could never have foretold, because the digital public square has replaced the physical one. And this public square are held by private companies. And as a libertarian, I am one firmly in favor of legislation that would give us a digital Bill of Rights and access to the public square, so long as we're not violative of US law. But they want to be able to dictate that we can't misgender somebody in order to stay on their square. That we can't, as rapper Zuby did, call someone accidentally a dude who thought himself to be a woman. This is so cray-cray that it doesn't stand up to any test of time. This is not anti-fragile. This is the definition of fragile. I want the best for America. I am a former Democrat. I am never going back, but we have to come to some mutual agreement, because as we become further polarized, and a lot of that polarization is coming from the Democratic side of the aisle, from Wokistan, as I will call the factory, the splitting of our country and the utter destruction of our founding principles that have enabled our great nation to the rise to the wealth levels that we have today, for the opportunities that everybody is granted, that people seem to take for absolute granted, is disheartening. Together, collectively, we have to find areas where we can agree upon and concentrate on those areas, so that together we can extend both of our hands to our nation and pull ourselves back up the cliff from which we are falling at an ever-increasing rate. Peace and blessings. If you're new, subscribe, notification bell, get that dopamine hit, turn that like button blue, and have a fantastic day. If you have a comment, leave it below.